The moment we hear the name Middle East, two things come to mind: oil or political instability and wars. For almost 100 years, the Middle East has constantly been caught in conflict, whether it's the wars in Iraq and Syria, the unrest in Lebanon, the ongoing Palestine-Israel issue, or the civil war in Yemen. There's always some kind of conflict going on in the Middle East. Millions of lives have been lost, trillions of dollars have been spent, and yet peace still feels out of reach. But why is that? Why is the region so unstable with so many wars? The answer isn't simple, because the Middle East is like a chessboard where many powerful players are making strategic moves against each other. But in today's video, we're going to break down the main reason behind all the conflict in the Middle East. So make sure to watch till the end to understand the full story. To understand the answer to this question, we'll have to go back almost 100 years to when the modern-day borders of the Middle East were drawn, and that's where all these problems began. For several hundred years, the entire Middle East was under the control of the Turkish Ottoman Empire. In the 16th and 17th centuries, this empire stretched from Hungary all the way to Yemen. People from many different backgrounds lived under its rule: Jews, Christians, Muslims, Parsis, Arabs, and Kurds. But then, after the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire began to decline, and that was also the time when the British Empire was expanding its control throughout Asia. The British Empire saw the Ottoman Empire as its biggest obstacle, because the Ottomans were standing in the way of Britain's goal to expand its control from Asia into Europe. To break through this barrier, the British started setting up colonies in the Middle East. It all began in 1820, when Britain signed an agreement with the area now known as the UAE. Then came similar deals. In 1839 with Yemen, in 1861 with Bahrain, and later in 1888 with Egypt. These agreements brought all of these regions under British control. By taking over Egypt, Britain also gained control of the Suez Canal, which made it much easier for them to reach Asia without passing through Ottoman land. The Ottoman Empire was keeping a close eye on Britain's growing influence and understood how dangerous this expansion could be for its own future. So when World War I began in 1914, the Ottoman Empire chose to side with Germany. By that time, Britain and France had already made up their minds that the Ottoman Empire had to be destroyed no matter what. To carry out this plan, both empires signed a secret deal called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. According to the agreement, once World War I ended, the Middle East would be divided like this. This region would come under direct British control. This part would be called an independent Arab state, but Britain would still hold influence over it. Another large area would come under direct French control. Just like the British, the French would also have an independent Arab state under their influence. This region was promised to the Russian Empire, and the Palestine-Israel area would be placed under international administration. While drawing these borders, factors like language, religion, and ethnic identities were completely ignored, and that was the critical mistake for which the Middle East continues to suffer to this day. In 1917, the British government made a promise to the Jewish community living in Germany that they would support the creation of a separate Jewish state in the region of Palestine. This promise is known as the Balfour Declaration. At the same time, the world's major powers had started searching for oil. After World War I, it became clear that whoever controlled oil would control the future. Back then, the United States was the biggest producer and supplier of oil, and Britain got about 80% of its oil from America. But the US president at that time, Woodrow Wilson, was strongly against the idea of empires. Because of this, Britain no longer saw the US as a reliable long-term partner and wanted to end its oil dependence on America. Oil had first been found in the region in 1908 in Iran, but the amount was small, so Britain began searching for more oil across the Middle East, though it would take a few more years before they made any major discoveries. In 1919, after World War I ended, the Allied powers met in Versailles and signed the Treaty of Versailles, which once again changed the borders of the Middle East. A year later, the Treaty of Sèvres was announced. This treaty broke up the Ottoman Empire and handed large parts of it over to British and French control. The Turkish government was outraged by the treaty and began fighting against the Allies. After 2 years of conflict, they all returned to the negotiating table and in 1923 signed the Treaty of Lausanne. This treaty officially created the modern nation of Turkey. Most of today's Middle Eastern borders were shaped as a result of this agreement. But once again, the agreement ignored many important facts on the ground. One example is the Kurdish people. They had their own unique culture, language, and identity, which was very different from the Turks. Yet their land was split between Turkey, Syria, Iran, and Iraq, making them a minority in all four countries. Since then, the Kurds have been demanding a country of their own, and the region has remained a conflict zone ever since. We will soon cover this topic in another video, so you can learn more about the Turkey-Kurdish issue. Similarly, during this partition, the Ottoman provinces of Mosul, Baghdad, and Basra were merged into into the newly created country of Iraq, even though their demographics were very different. Mosul had mostly Kurdish people, Baghdad was home to mainly Sunni Arab Muslims, and Basra had a large number of Shia Arab Muslims. Similarly, Kuwait, which had once been part of Iraq, was separated and made into a new country. Later on, this very separation became one of the main reasons behind the Iraq-Kuwait War. Similarly, Lebanon was separated and made into an independent state under French control. At that time, 80% of Lebanon's population were Christians and only 20% were Muslims. This division too would go on to create significant problems in the future. In a similar way, the regions of Damascus, Aleppo, and Deir ez-Zor were merged to form the modern country of Syria. This brought together a highly diverse population of Sunnis, Shias, Kurds, Alawites, Christians, and Assyrians, all living under one national identity. In the 1930s, Turkey began urging the French Empire to hand over the Syrian province Alexandria, arguing that a large number of ethnic Turks lived there. France, worried that Turkey might side with Germany again in any future conflict, agreed to Turkey's demand. In 1938, Alexandria was separated from Syria, and in 1939, Turkey officially annexed the region after holding a referendum. Today, this area is known as Antakya. Syria has never accepted this change and still considers Antakya part of its territory, a source of tension that continues to this day. Another major issue between Turkey, Syria, and Iraq is water. The Euphrates and Tigris rivers, which provide vital water to Syria and Iraq, originate in Turkey. Turkey has built dams on both rivers, leading to ongoing disputes over water access and usage in the region. Around the late 1930s, oil began to be discovered in the Arab world. In Iraq, massive oil reserves were discovered near Basra and Mosul. These areas are primarily home to Shia Arabs and Shia Kurds. In 1938, enormous oil reserves were found near the eastern borders of Saudi Arabia. Interestingly, this entire area is inhabited by Shia Muslims. In the same year, 1938, Kuwait also discovered large oil reserves, even more than all of Iraq's. Since Kuwait was once part of Iraq, this discovery would later become a major cause of war. Likewise, in 1956, oil was discovered in northeastern Syria, an area predominantly inhabited by Kurds. Half of the world's oil reserves were found in this single region, a region already divided by religion, politics, and ethnicity. Naturally, this made it a major point of interest for the world's biggest powers. Around this time, Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union began stepping into the Middle East, each acting as a behind-the-scenes player in the region's affairs. It was during this phase that Britain took some actions which would ignite long-lasting conflict. One of those actions was the creation of a Jewish state in Palestine, where thousands of Jews from Germany were relocated. In 1947, the United Nations divided Palestine into two parts. One side was given to the Jews, who, despite being half of the population, were given 62% of the land. On the other hand, the Palestinians, who had twice the population, were given only 38% of the land. Due to its religious importance, Jerusalem was placed under international administration. Just a year after the plan was proposed, Britain withdrew and Israel declared independence. This sparked a conflict that continues to claim thousands of innocent lives to this day. Despite Israel declaring independence, no Arab country recognized it. In 1948, several Arab states attacked Israel, but Israel won the war, and as a result it captured not only Jewish designated areas, but also 60% of Arab territory. Nearly 700,000 Palestinian Arabs fled their homeland and migrated to Lebanon, drastically altering Lebanon's demographics, as Muslims became the majority there. This demographic shift later became one of the main causes of Lebanon's brutal civil war between 1975 and 1990. Meanwhile, Jews continued to settle in Israel from all over the world. Over time, Jews outnumbered Muslims in the entire Palestinian region. A few years after the partition, in 1954, Jamal Abdel Nasser became the president of Egypt. Nasser had a dream of uniting all Arab countries into one nation, believing that only this way could they defeat Israel and other enemies of the Arab world. However, Nasser was not only against Israel and the US, but he also opposed Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, whom he viewed as Muslim traitors for aligning with America. In 1956, Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, leading to a joint attack by France, Britain, and Israel on Egypt. But somehow Egypt emerged victorious, and Nasser became a hero across the Arab world. The entire Arab world was deeply inspired by Nasser's nationalist ideology. Inspired by this, in 1962, a civil war broke out in Yemen between Arab nationalists and the Yemeni government, marking the first time foreign proxy players got involved. This war was a serious threat to family-controlled monarchies like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Jordan, fearing that the same ideology could destabilize their own rule. Therefore, these countries joined hands with the US and supported the Yemeni government against the nationalists, while Nasser supported the nationalists with Egyptian troops and weapons. While Egypt was already engaged in this proxy war in 1967, Israel attacked Egypt and captured Gaza Strip and Sinai Peninsula. In response, Egypt closed the Suez Canal again, which remained shut for 8 years. Nasser was deeply disappointed by this defeat, and in 1970 he died of a heart attack at age 52. That same year, Britain announced it would grant independence to Persian Gulf and Middle Eastern countries. The next year, UAE and other Gulf nations gained independence. After Britain's exit, America began increasing its presence in the region, as it was now the rising superpower, and it was critical to have influence over a region holding 50% of the world's oil supply. For the next 8 years, the Arab world remained unstable. The Arab-Israel War broke out again, and Israel won once more. Egypt officially recognized Israel. The Egyptian president was assassinated for this recognition. Meanwhile, Lebanon plunged into a deadly civil war between Palestinians and locals, which lasted until 1990. While all of this unfolded in the Middle East, a major revolution occurred in Iran. In 1979, Ruhollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah's government and took control of Iran. Post-1979, Iran was completely transformed into a strict Shia Islamic regime, which aimed to export its ideology to other countries. This posed a serious threat to the Sunni rulers of Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Bahrain, and Iraq. At this time, Saddam Hussein had come to power in Iraq. Being a Sunni Muslim, Saddam feared that Iran's revolution would inspire Iraq's Shia majority, especially since Iraq's major oil reserves were located in Shia-populated areas. To counter the revolution, Saddam attacked Iran in 1980, launching a war that lasted for 8 years. During this war, America, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait provided massive financial support to Saddam, but even so, the war ended in 1988 with no clear outcome. The war left Iraq economically devastated. Saddam asked Kuwait to forgive a $65 billion loan used for the Iran war, but Kuwait refused. In retaliation, Saddam invaded Kuwait and seized control of its oil reserves. At that point, Saddam controlled 25% of the world's oil supply and moved the Iraqi army towards Saudi borders, clearly aiming to take over Saudi oil fields. That would mean nearly 50% of the world's oil would fall under the control of one man. Naturally, Saudi Arabia and global powers could not tolerate this. In 1990, America led a coalition of 32 countries to attack Iraq. After 1 year of war, Kuwait was liberated. Following this, America became a major player in the Middle East and Persian Gulf. The US began establishing military bases across the region. Today, the 5th US Naval Fleet is based in Bahrain. Qatar hosts a large US airbase called CENTCOM, which oversees operations in the Middle East and Central Asia. The UAE hosts an American missile defense system. Saudi Arabia is the largest buyer of US weapons. So on the eastern side of the Middle East, America, the Arab states, and Iran all face each other. Even though relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia have recently improved, it's still a long road to peace. On the southern side, Yemen is in the grip of a brutal civil war involving Saudi Arabia, Iran, the US, and even Russia. Up north, Syria has become the epicenter of proxy warfare, with Russia, Iran, America, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE all militarily involved. In Iraq, following Saddam Hussein's fall, Al-Qaeda and now ISIS have tried to fill the power vacuum, leading to catastrophic consequences. And in Turkey and Syria, a conflict over Kurdish rebels could erupt at any moment. All in all, the Middle East is in turmoil. The root cause of this chaos lies in the arbitrary borders and partitions made over 100 years ago, where human diversity was ignored and only self-interest was considered. Let us know your thoughts about today's video in the comments below. Here are the sources we consulted for this video. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video with another interesting topic.